Hello YouTube friends, Dr. Teresa Ulrich here again. If you've been following my series of videos in my chronicle in setting up aquariums for seahorses, you may have seen in my previous video that I was really close to having the water parameters all set to acquire seahorses, and then I discovered a problem with the canister filter that seemed like it was contributing to the pollution in the tank. And out of frustration, I completely disassembled that tank, and what I've done now is I've set up, it's hard to tell, it actually looks pretty big in this video, but it's about a 2.5 gallon aquarium, and I'm just going to move forward with the dwarves. At this point, with all my frustration, this is just going to be a simple setup. It's not going to be a long waiting time for water to be ready for seahorses as it was in the other case. So let me just show you a little bit about my setup. I'm going to move to the back. One thing I'm doing a little bit different, looking through my stuff to set up this tiny tank. I'm going to get a close-up. I found an old timer. These are the kind that you plug in and you can set when you want your electrical device to turn on and off for different times of day or night. And I thought, well, this would be really handy for the aquarium light. So I did set that up. Oh, sorry about that, I'm pulling up against the wall. I'm going to push the shelf back closer to against the wall. There we go. And let me show you a little bit about the light. Let me turn this off. This is an actinic screw-in bulb that fits into the typical 15-watt small tank light. I really like it because it's not a strong, bright color. Let me turn it back on a moment. Let's see if it's too bright to see. Oh, it's a little hard to see. But if you look, oh, that angle helps. You'll notice that one of the bars is like a bluish color and one is a whitish color, and it just gives a really nice balanced look to the water without it being too harsh for the seahorses. So I'm going to turn this off right now, move it to the side because we're actually going to put water in here, and take off the lid. Here is that small sea fan that I had in the other tank. I took it off of what was going to be the seahorse feeding station. It is artificial. And then here is my rock-based artificial plant too. I'm just having 2 plants in there right now. That amount of hanging opportunity for the tails of the seahorses is more than sufficient for, you know, it could be several dozen seahorses, but, you know, I'll start with probably just a half dozen in this tiny tank and see how things go. So I'm going to be adding water to this in just a minute. I am using the seasoned water from the previous tank, which was just about cycled, so I don't have to start from scratch again. But a couple of things that I want to show you. I'm just keeping things as simple as possible. So here is just a very simple filter that hooks up to an air pump, and it circulates air from the bottom, pushes air through that creates bubbles, and then there's going to be an insert. This is very, very old. I have a couple of these from when I was trying to raise baby seahorses with this older species in the past, but it looks like back then, I don't know if they still make these, they were Small World units, and I just bought the replacement units, and these would stick right into this piece that goes inside of the aquarium. So what I'm going to do is step back with the camera and try to get an angle where you can see me doing a little bit of work. I'm going to put some pieces in place here. So one thing that I have, that mini magnetic cleaner. This is perfect for this size aquarium, and then the scrubbing side goes on the inside and the felt part goes to the outside, and I usually just leave these right in the aquarium so I don't have to hunt for them. Then I'm going to take my pump and I'm I'm going to plug this in at the bottom. So it'll be just a second as I reach down behind to get that power strip. And I have turned it on. I don't know if you can hear it. It's pretty quiet. Maybe you can hear a little bit of gurgling from the hose. And the bubbles need to go upwards, so this is the correct size of it here. I'll place this inside the aquarium in just a moment. I'm going to have it come up from the back so the hose isn't sitting in the front when everything's set up. Then I'm going to take the replacement cartridge, and in the bottom part there's like a foam filter, and on the top it's carbon and ammonia removal zealots, I think they're called. So I don't know if you'll be able to see. Let me get the camera again. And I'm going to just rinse this off. You don't want to put these in the device without rinsing them, because there's going to be dust and things that come off of the charcoal and the zealots. So I have a bucket of fresh water here. And I think the carbon's activated. It's a little hard to hear here, but it's making that little sizzling sound. So let me put the camera back so it's stable and I can finish working and show you as I put the final pieces. It's amazing how quickly this is going to come together. Such a big difference working with dwarf seahorses compared to the large ones. They do bring other challenges, but tank setup is usually not one of them. So I'm going to put this in its place, and it just snaps right in. And then I'm going to move the sea fan a tiny bit. And I want to put this down just a little bit of a ways, because I don't want the bubbles creating that much spray. And there's suction cups on the back, so I moistened those so that they would get some suction and stay on the back of the tank there. So you can hear it gurgling a little bit, just because there's probably a tiny bit of water in that hose. But other than that, I've got it set up and ready to go. The reason I like these really simple filters is they don't suck up all the baby brine shrimp that the seahorses will eat. They don't suck up the babies. They do offer a modicum of filtration. If minimum, it'll be biological filtration. So I'm at the point now where I am ready to start adding my water. And I may have mentioned that I did save the water from the previous tank, and I'm going to add that in. Luckily, I have a towel handy because I'm going to have to dry off the bottom of this so I don't drip water everywhere. While I'm doing this, you may notice that I have another tank that looks identical to the one on top, and actually it is. One of them I had purchased many, many years ago. It might even have been for dwarf seahorses at that time. I don't even remember. The other one, someone was giving away, and I just took it. I couldn't resist it. The reason that I have both of them up here is one will be the main or active tank at all times, and you'll see that tiny bit of housekeeping is going to have to be done each day. And I use just a turkey baster, a plain old turkey baster, to get the detritus out of the bottom of the tank. And then I add fresh water with what I clean out, but maybe once every couple of weeks or even once a month. It's really hard to keep everything clean enough so that things stay stable for the seahorses. They don't get overloaded with bacteria buildup or anything that could contribute to the contamination of the water. So it's easiest to just move all of the seahorses every few weeks into a new tank and clean out and sterilize the other tank, and then just rotate them that way. But that's not something that I would do every day or even every week. And it's not something you have to do if you feel like you can really get inside of that small tank and clean it as well as you think it should be, so the seahorses can stay healthy. that's an option too. But to me, this is one of the best ways to make sure that your water and the inside of the tank is always clean enough so that the seahorses can remain healthy. I'm almost at the top of the tank. I don't want to go too high. It's not good to go to the very top because then you have overflow with the bubbles. But you can see that simple little filter is bubbling nicely. I'm almost at where I need to be with the water line, so I'm going to stop it right there. And I'll keep the filter pump in the bottom here, just because it'll make a nicer display in the top. I'm just going to keep my dipping water strips here to check water quality, but as at any time, if I have concerns, I can always use the more detailed testing kits that will give me more information about the exact parameters of things as I need. But since I'm going to be constantly putting in a little bit of fresh aquarium water on a pretty consistent basis, almost daily, if not daily, I'm not really worried about the water quality. I know that more modern thinking with seahorse aquariums requires or suggests, not requires, but suggests that we use larger tanks, but I'm going to start with just a small amount because I just want to get into that habit of having successful hatching with the brine. And the smaller the aquarium, the less you have to hatch out, and the further or the closer that the brine is to the seahorses for capture, and they don't have to chase it down. They're really not very aggressive when it comes to chasing down their food. So this will be a great experiment, and if things are going well and I need to upgrade, I have that equipment. This is all equipment that I had on hand. I didn't buy anything new. I had this mini scraper. I had this mini filter and the replacement parts. I had the mini sea fan and the mini faux plant and rocks. I had the extra aquarium. And I also had the small air pump. So these were not anything that I bought new. You can see with the water in the aquarium, that looks pretty nice with that lighting. I still have a bare bottom. It does look nicer, I admit, to have just a little bit of gravel or some sort of substrate. But the more things you add to a seahorse tank, the more you have to worry about getting cleaned well enough so that you don't get harmful bacteria and growth in a tank that's eventually going to inhibit the health of the seahorses. I also have something fun that somebody gave me many, many, many years ago. This is a little floating bulb that has a seahorse on here. And when I do get the seahorses, I am going to put it in this little tank because I bet you those seahorses are going to enjoy hanging on this. So this will be one other little thing hanging in there. I'm not going to put it in there now because if I put it in now, I'm going to have to start cleaning it pretty soon. So whenever I do the more in-depth cleanings each week, this will be part of that cleaning. But anyway, you can see that was a pretty fast setup. Really easy. Sorry if my dog is in the picture. He's obviously very interested in what I have to say about seahorses right now. This stand is something I also had, and I brought up from the garage with all my other equipment. So like I said, I didn't buy one new thing for this setup. And I actually have some very old brine shrimp eggs that haven't even been opened yet. So probably in the next video, I'll do a demonstration seeing if those shrimp eggs even hatch, just to see if I can get something on hand and ready before I order the seahorses and they arrive. So our journey has taken another direction, but I think this is the direction we're going to keep going, and things should be going a little bit smoother from now on. Thanks so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, and I look forward to seeing you next time.